The mission of the International Book Project is to provide books to schools and libraries in the developing world. So places that are underdeveloped in Africa, Asia, South America, Central America. So our primary focus is international, but we also, one of Billy's secondary roles is to improve some of our local donations as well to underserved communities in Kentucky. So whenever you're working with the International Book Project, you're doing a lot to help people overseas, but also as you go through the sorting process, some of those books might be sent to a local organization in Kentucky that is underserved. They might be going to an orphanage in Kenya. They might be going to her bookstore where they're sold very inexpensively, which is also sort of part of our mission, where we're providing books and reading materials at a very, very inexpensive price. Well, we started, as most nonprofits do, as an all-volunteer organization. In 1966, Harriet Van Meter, our founder, started getting her friends really involved. And so we've been, recruiting volunteers for 44 years.
In our database, we have just over 350 different names and emails, and we reach out to any of them anytime there's an opportunity that we're searching for volunteers to help out with. But as far as the specific activities, they're either working in our warehouse or the bookstore. In the bookstore, it's mostly just shelving the books, figuring out what books to sell, which ones we need to pull off the shelf that really aren't selling. The books that do sell, the money goes to help ship the...
But like Billy said, we have a database of emails that people email us looking for volunteer opportunities. We also use the United Way. We're linked into their system. And then we get a lot of volunteers from the University of Kentucky, like fraternities, sororities, different just groups that come in, especially during the school year. We send a lot of educational textbooks. We ask that any textbooks that are donated need to be copyrighted within the last 10 years. So if you have, went to school 50 years ago, well, I'm sure that was a wonderful textbook. We have to really be cognizant of what kind of materials that we're sending overseas, because of the expense of sending them overseas. But as far as donations, for an average person who doesn't have access to, unless you're a teacher who have access to, lots and lots of textbooks, which is great and we would love to have, really children's books. So like picture story books, chapter books, especially things that are nonfiction, biographies, things about science, things about history, those types of things are probably our biggest need. We could just use children's books all day because we have so many requests for them for libraries and like almost every place is requesting, lower level up through the higher level, but definitely we have more requests at the primary school level as well. But we really take any types of books. We do library donations as well right now. We're working on a project to provide an English language library in Macedonia. And so we're sending over romance novels and we're sending over, historical fiction and those types of things. So we take everything and we'll sort through it depending on what the needs of our recipient partners in the developing world are. Yeah, well, you can see from the map behind us, we send a lot of books. You can see Central America. We send books actually in Spanish to Guatemala, Costa Rica, Ecuador, a lot of places in Central America and the Caribbean. Then we also send a lot of books into Western Africa, Nigeria, Ghana. We've been doing more work you can see up there, we're doing some large shipments into Sierra Leone and Liberia. A lot of them are Anglophone, so that most of our books are in English, and then as well as into East Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, and those areas down into South Africa. And then we've been doing a lot of work, increasing amount of work in Eastern Europe and Central Asia, the countries that were formerly aligned with the Soviet Union. We've had a couple donors really interested in helping them learn English, because their second language previously was Russian, and a lot of them are trying to learn English as that's the global language of commerce.
If we need extra help, we all take on all kinds of different roles because we have such a small staff. The majority of the time I focus on marketing, in charge of newsletters, e-newsletters. I'm working on our annual report right now and helping Rachel plan events. And we have a fall fundraiser usually every year. And this spring, actually, we were lucky enough to host an event for Dr. Kalam, the former president of India, when he was in heaven. So we were really excited to do that.
Okay.
Sometimes I work a lot with the thank you letters, and we have a blog. It's on WordPress, International Book Project. It's called Books Change Lives. And reading the thank you letters, it really reminds you, what you're doing and the impact, you make. And it's very encouraging.
It's interesting because I'm a pretty young executive director, so we're pretty open to change, I would say, compared to, I know, some places are sort of like really set in their ways, but I mean, I've only been here for 2 years, and we've done a lot of change in 2 years, and I feel like we're kind of finding the most efficient ways to do things. But it's kind of a great way for, I've had volunteers who've offered suggestions on how to do things better, and they're totally right. So, we change things that we do. So I think that we're pretty open, if you're a volunteer and there's certain things you want to do or don't want to do, or ideas that you have, we're pretty open to, changing something to make it work better, and those types of things. And a lot of our staff all started out as volunteers. Saul, who works in our warehouse part-time, started out as a volunteer. He volunteered here. He was a great volunteer. Spent hours here for a couple months, and eventually we had a position opened up, and no better sort of person to bring on board than volunteers.
We have been posting some things on Facebook, events that come up, and that has actually been, something new that we've tried, and it works wonderfully. Yeah.
So you're on Facebook or you're on Twitter too?
Mm-hmm. On both, yes.
We are completely publicly funded, so we rely on the public. Basically decides whether or not we stay for another year through their donations and through both the book donations as well as monetary donations. The other role we have an all-volunteer board, and that's very important because ultimately they are the they're basically the governing body of the organization, and they make big decisions for us, and they're all locally here in Lexington. They're all local community members, and they have a huge role in basically making sure that we're sustainable, and as well as making sure that we're meeting our mission. So that's a great way for people to get involved, somewhat on even a higher level than on a more, administrative level than just packing books. Because some people are interested in packing books, but we don't keep track of all our books coming in because it would we'd take off our time counting books. But we do know last year we sent overseas. We sent 207,000 books. We do track how many we send overseas. We estimate that we have about 100,000 in our warehouse at any given time, and we get somewhere in the neighborhood of probably about a ton of books a week, weight-wise. And we have to sort them, so we have a number that, need to go get recycled through Goodwill. So it's not like everything that comes in is going to be sent overseas, but we do. We are very careful to make sure that any books that we don't use do get recycled. We're not just dumping them in the trash or anything like that. So we have a great partnership with Goodwill here in Kentucky. Key points for the community for us are donate books, because here they really will be used, and they will be used again. They just won't necessarily be sold. They'll actually, your actual book will go overseas. I know some organizations will say, they'll resell your book and then send something else overseas. But the kids' books that we come in that are in great condition and that are applicable to send overseas, they will go. Your actual book will end up in, Africa or Asia or something like that. And it's pretty cool to think about that your book is going to provide a library for somebody else. And the same with donations. You have the opportunity to sponsor a small shipment for $100. We match that with some grant money to be able to ship a small shipment overseas. So if you have a specific area of the world or the specific type of organization that you'd like to support, you can donate $100 online and just say what type of organization you'd like it to go to. And then we provide your name and address, and we ask our partners to send you a thank you note, and that's pretty cool. One of our volunteers who will be here in a little bit, instead of, she likes to tell this story, I wish she was here to tell it, but instead of giving gifts at Christmas time, they did a $100 donation to the International Book Project. And about 4 months later, she said she completely forgot about, she had sent this money in, and she gets this mail from, I think it was Nepal. And she was like, I don't know anybody in Nepal, what is this? And she opens it up, and it was a thank you letter from the recipient who had received her books, the money that she had donated in Nepal, and she gets teary-eyed talking about it because she's like, you know, she comes and she packs books every week, and she's like, and it truly, you know, kind of brought it alive for her that she comes and does this every week, and you know, you don't get to see your recipients, but here she got this letter back saying, you know, thank you for these books, and you know, these books are helping us learn English, and these are the only English language books we have, and so it's a pretty neat experience, even to donate, even as, you know, if you have kids or grandkids, it's kind of a neat experience to give them an idea about the world that's so much larger than Kentucky, from right here in Lexington.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5, and you can drop off anytime during that time. It's a good idea if you have a lot of books to just give us a call and make sure that the books you have fit our criteria. Our criteria is online. It's on their poster outside. And you can check our website. It's just internationalbookproject.org.